It's always cool when a new Call of Duty gun is promoted as an awesome new thing that lives up to the hype. Sometimes you see a gun in a trailer for a Call of Duty game, maybe a DLC trailer, it looks awesome, but then you actually use it, and it kind of sucks. Welcome to the channel, everybody. Jimmy or Chaos. Today we're calling out the fake guns in Call of Duty history. That's right, it's happened a ton of times throughout the franchise, so let's get into it. The HG40 in Black Ops 3. Now, Treyarch announced this thing as this futuristic remake of the classic MP40. And this was the first time the MP40 was going to be in a COD multiplayer since the completely busted version that was in World at War, right? So we were hyped. Then we spent hundreds of dollars on supply drops. We spun the roulette wheel many times. We didn't get it. We spent a few more $100. We finally got lucky and we got it. It was the worst SMG in the game. It was bouncy, it was slow, it was inconsistent, it was straight up terrible, and they really expected you to be excited about pulling it out of a supply drop. To my understanding, Treyarch eventually buffed it, made it actually worth using, but when the HG40 dropped, are you kidding? It was absolutely fitting in my definition of a fake gun. The hype was crazy, it looked awesome, we were all hyped to use it, and then it sucked. At number 9, the AN-94 in Modern Warfare 2019. Fan favorite in Black Ops 2. Such an awesome gun. Some people would even call it the best gun in the game. I'll let you guys debate that in the comments. Naturally, when we saw it in one of the first DLC trailers for Modern Warfare, we were freaking out how much of a beast it was going to be again. But if you played MW19 or if you watched enough of my videos, you know that didn't happen. The AN-94 in the game was crap. Damage was bad. The recoil was unpredictable, which those were two attributes that entirely killed the appeal of the gun in the first place. The Black Ops 2 version of the AN-94 was super consistent, easy to control. But the MW19 version, it was the opposite. And it was way too bouncy unless you loaded it with a lot of attachments, which would just slow it down to the point of being useless. It was a huge letdown from the trailers. It made it look like it was going to be just as good as it was in Black Ops 2's era, and it was not. At number 8, the Ice Pick. COD World War II. This isn't a gun, but it qualifies for a spot because people were stoked for it when they saw it in the trailer, and everybody stopped using it because it actually sucked for whatever reason. COD World War II only launched with one melee weapon. You had your shovel. So people are excited to see what other World War II era weapons would be added. One of the first ones was the Ice Pick. Looked awesome. There were some gruesome effects that would play during a kill animation, but it sucked compared to the shovel for some reason. I'm really not sure if this was intentional, but the Ice Pick had way worse range than the shovel, and the animation often took longer to complete, which it would leave you vulnerable to enemy gunfire while killing somebody. The shovel was quick, efficient, had pretty good range. The Ice Pick, it was awkward. It was awkward to use in comparison. If you put it, I don't know. I really don't understand it. It puts you at an objective disadvantage. I have no idea if it was intentional or not, but there was no reason to use the Ice Pick over the shovel, and it was a huge letdown after we got all hyped for seeing it in the community event trailer. We got bamboozled. At number 7, the Type 2 in Infinite Warfare. Raise your hand if you remember this thing. The laser assault rifle could be split into two, which was really cool. Basically converted into the Akimbo FMG9s. Yeah, when we saw this thing in the marketing, we were all scared. We were scared they were going to be a problem. In reality, the Type 2 was mid. Some even called it one of the worst guns in the game. If you were using it in assault rifle mode, it was bouncy, weak. It was a fast-firing rifle with an average time to kill. If you split it up in the Akimbo FMG9 mode, it was a hit marker machine with bad accuracy. If you go back to the early promotional material from Infinite Warfare, Type 2 was featured prominently, especially in Akimbo mode, but in full game release, really wasn't that good. You barely ever saw it online after the first week or when people figured out really quick that it sucks. And once we figured it out, nobody picked it up. At number 6, the RSA interdiction in Black Ops 3. The amount of hype that was flying around the Call of Duty community when this thing was announced was just mind-blowing. A bolt-action sniper rifle that had aim assist. Why all the other bolt-action snipers didn't. This was going to be the quick-scoping monster. That's what we all thought, at least. Then, by now, you guys all know that the RSA interdiction was actually one of the worst snipers in the game because while it did have aim assist, it was also laughably weak. Pretty slow fire rate. So even though it was easy to land shots, it was actually really hard to get the kills. If you were dedicated to quickscoping, you were much better off using the Locust and learning how to not rely on aim assist. Yeah, since we're talking about Black Ops snipers. Now we arrive at the top 5, the Vendetta and Black Ops 4. The community was begging Treyarch for a DLC sniper in the game for a long time, and it legitimately took Treyarch months to add one, but when they did, we all instantly forgot about it because it was really bad. barely even functioned like a sniper. The Vendetta was a worse version of the SKM tactical rifle. Semi-auto, low recoil, high fire rate, horrible damage. Typically required 3 to 4 shots to kill somebody. Does that sound like the kind of sniper rifle that the Call of Duty community is going to get excited about or rally around? I mean, the hype was ridiculous when Treyarch announced they were adding a sniper. All the snipers were there on day one, and every single one of them was utterly disappointed and never picked up the gun again. At number 4, the Dragoon in Black Ops 3. Now, BO3 had some amazing sniper rifles, and we're all pretty interested at the time in the Dragoon because it looked like it was going to be an awesome throwback weapon to the classic days of COD 4, even Modern Warfare 2, and that was Treyarch's intention. We thought it was going to feel super old school and hit like a truck like all the snipers did back in the day. Little did we know, the Dragoon was actually going to be completely useless, and you still had to open supply drops for hours before maybe unlocking it. It was clunky, slow, inconsistent, didn't feel like an old school sniper at all. And you can't say, oh, Jimmy, that was intentional because it was old school, because I actually am old school. I was there for the old school snipers, and even though some of them were clunky and slow, none of them felt like this. And they certainly weren't this unsatisfying to use. I know that. The community hyped up this old school DLC sniper and never thought about it again because it sucked. At number 3, the AK-47 in Advanced Warfare. Now, the AK-47 is iconic. Advanced Warfare was a pretty crazy game to begin with. It entirely dominated by one rifle. So when we first heard about the AK, we thought this was it. It was going to kick the bow off the top of the mountain, or at least we were hoping it would. In reality, though, the Advanced Warfare AK was a mid version of the gun that wasn't very good, but it wasn't bad. It wasn't going to hold a candle to the bow, which meant nobody was going to use it. It also used the Modern Warfare 3 weapon model for some insane reason instead of just something a little more traditional, but whatever. It's a Sledgehammer game. Sledgehammer made the multiplayer for Modern Warfare 3. I guess it makes sense. Regardless, it wasn't very good despite being an AK-47. At number 2, the XMG in Advanced Warfare. Oh man, we really thought this was going to be a life-changing event. When the trailer showed us dual-wielded miniguns, we all thought Call of Duty was about to change forever. We thought things were going to be so crazy. We weren't even going to recognize the game as something in the Call of Duty franchise. And then we used the XMGs, and immediately we gently set them down, or we threw them down because they sucked. The XMGs definitely looked intimidating. And there's definitely some cool Ultra Boss feeling about running around with 2 giant miniguns strapped to your arms, but the way they function in game, it was bad. You had to plop yourself down in one spot to get any accuracy, and even then, they weren't reliable at all because of the bullet spread. Nobody actually used the XMGs in Advanced Warfare, despite how cool they look, because they put you at a total disadvantage on the battlefield. But there's also one more Advanced Warfare gun, and I'm sure you know the one I'm talking about, that looked absolutely insane in the trailer, featured really heavily in the marketing. We were all freaking out, and then we used it. And then we put it down gently, or threw it down, and we went back to spamming the bow in the ASM-1. Also, do you remember the bacon and eggs XMG? Anyway. At number 1 today, the EM1 in Advanced Warfare, the giant freaking laser beam cannon. This was one of the worst guns in the game. It would fire one continuous Ghostbusters beam of energy that would deal constant damage to anybody it hit, but the damage it was putting out per tick, it was low. It just made you feel like an idiot with a feather duster as opposed to a super soldier with an exosuit and a giant freaking laser beam. The EM1 hit for a maximum of 18 damage per tick. So it didn't really matter that it was dealing constant damage because the time to kill was slow. Did I mention that it would overheat every 4.5 seconds? Yeah. That's all the time you would get at one time, 4.5 seconds, then it would overheat. So you had this horrible time to kill, constant overheating, and a damage profile that was so bad you couldn't even insta-kill people in hardcore modes, and we all thought this thing was going to be game-breaking when we saw it in the trailers. We were wrong. Now I know you're going to say, Jimmy, you didn't use the legendary variants or whatever that were awesome. Well, no. Talking about the regular EM1. And there you have it, my friends. Those are fake guns. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you soon.